Next up, I'd like to invite Primer. I think Barry's on the line. Primer is another company that I've just come to actually get to know and meet this year. They're part of our enterprise tech batch. And essentially what Primer does is, they automate the processes that hold analysts, decision makers, and organization, back, enable them to make more kind of informed decisions at scale. So, what does that mean? An example is, an intelligence analyst, comes to work every day. They need to understand a specific topic. Right now, for example, what's the COVID impact in the European Union market? And they're expected to read, thousands of documents, understand over 200,000 plus words a day from hundreds of different sources. Unfortunately, we're humans. We can only comprehend, from what Barry tells me, around, 5,000 words a day. So Primer essentially allows these analysts to quickly uncover and understand the information that is important to them, and to quickly generate relevant insights for morning briefings and other outputs that might be required from them, and even for policymakers. That said, I'll pass it on to Barry. I think he does a great job of explaining kind of the product and showing a great demo. So Barry, take it over.
Thank you, Amit, and thanks to everybody for staying over. I know we're going a little long. I'm going to share my Google Chrome here. I'll present. So Amit did a great job giving the overview of us. We're about a 5.5-year-old machine learning, natural language processing company, really focused on unstructured text data. I know we've heard from a couple of people today, they're focused on structured and other parts of RPA. But as Amit said, how can you consume large quantities of text data and start to make sense of that? Humans are not that good at reading, comprehending, understanding large quantities. Computers are very good at that. How do you train the computers to put in the hands of those people that information they need to make to be able to go after, an intelligence use case? We came out of the US intelligence community, and In-Q-Tel is one of our select customers on the screen. They're the venture arm of the US intelligence community. Moved quickly into GIC, our first financial services company, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Singapore, if you're not familiar with them. And their use case was similar to kind of the intelligence and defense use case was, hey, we have a lot of portfolio managers and equity traders and analysts. We want them making our organization money or using their human insight to go make decisions or make insights, right? Not read, collate, deduplicate, synthesize content. Those are things that systems are very, very good at, that we've trained our systems to be able to do at Primer. So our mission is basically closing the intelligence gap. You've probably seen this slide for the last decade coming from the big data space. But as you can imagine, data is shooting up. You heard the stat that Amit said, the number of people that we're able to hire at these organizations to comprehend and understand and trade against this data or make decisions off of this data is only increasing. How do you close that intelligence gap? The only real answer is doing that with systems. And that's what Primer focuses on. How we do it, we like to call this kind of the 3 S's to keep this simple. We take very unstructured data, Word documents, earnings calls, transcripts, sell-side analyst reports, SEC filings, the 10Ks and Qs of that, other regulatory filings, news, emails, you name it, very unstructured data. And we can train our systems with no prior knowledge to grab out all of those people, places, organizations, quotes, numbers, with no prior knowledge of that information to do that NER. So that's how we take the structured content from a very unstructured world without any prior knowledge. We summarize. Lots and lots of content is very long. How do you compress and get that down to something that you can go use to, again, make decisions, inform your boss, make a trade, follow that equity, whatever the case may be? How do you put that into digestible chunks? Another example of this is, how do you take that 20-page analyst report or the 200-page, Morgan Stanley update on the impacts of coronavirus on the US economy and distill that down to what your analyst should be paying attention to? We can train Primer to be able to do that as well. And then finally, surfacing the information that matters to you. As a natural language processing, natural language generation company, we're heavily focused on machine learning and machine learned models. How can we train those models to mimic that human behavior? Finally, as you can imagine, unstructured text data is everywhere. We operate obviously in finance, large in pharmaceutical, retail, CPGs. You know, something to stress here, being born out of the US intelligence community, we are heavily focused on heavily regulated industries because we can deploy our technology on premise in a customer's data center, in the cloud, public, private, in ours, wherever that data may live, to allow customers to, again, make sense of the data that's important to them. So I'm going to close out of this, if I can figure out how to do it, and get into a quick demo. So I just took this CNN article from this morning, cut and pasted it. I'm going to put it into this demo environment right here and say, okay, Primer, take this one document that you've never seen before, generate a new title, go write a summary off of it, go do all the NER, go find those entities, and start to map out the relationships. So this case, it happens to be just a single document. I'll show you in a second, multiple documents. I live in San Francisco, so the wildfires are front and center for me, and I know a bunch of the plug and play people there as well. So Primer automatically generated a new summary, thousands of acres torched in new California wildfires, automatically identified topics. And then this is an example of summarization. And again, we were kind of bleeding edge, leading edge in this space. 3 different types: extractive, semi-abstractive, and abstractive. Abstractive is the more holy grail of summarization. How do you start to really mimic that human behavior with completely new sentences, new complete derivative content that isn't at all contained in that prior article? Going on to the NER, who are the people, locations, organizations, miscellaneous? And then finally, how are all of those entities, those individuals, mapping to each other? And again, this is one document off of that one CNN article. We do this both at the single document and both at scale and multiple documents. So we can move over to a system we have over here. And this is looking at about 1 million news articles a day from 50,000 or so sources. And you saw I just typed in a search for Apple, and this is going to go against about 7 million documents, automatically assembling and putting together kind of that analysis off of Apple. And the reason this search query turned green is because our system automatically knows that Apple is an organization or a company, the maker of the iPhone, not the fruit or the cider or the drink. Really, really important for that to know. So you obviously get accurate result sets. We give you a quick overview, what happened over the last week, what's happened over the last year against this equity. And again, this search could be on anything. Pictures, what are those events feed? I feel like I'm getting the Oscars music with Amit coming on. What are those events I need to be paying attention to over the last couple of days? And just to hit this quickly. So our system, we build machines that read and write. iPhone 12 release date rumors, Apple may launch device earlier than usual in South Korea. This was synthesized across Business Insider, India Times, and 118 more, 112 being unique. So we could dive into that, and I'll explain as it's loading before I get kicked off. Our system automatically understands that these 120 something documents are talking about the same thing over the same time frame, automatically generates a summary, key insights, quotes, what are the numbers we're seeing, who are the people, organizations, what is the history timeline of how those events unfolded over the last handful of months. Again, no prior knowledge of any of this information. It reads all those thousands of documents that match the Apple query over that time frame and assembles this so me as an analyst or trader can quickly make sense of that information to go do my job, not spend my time compressing, synthesizing, collating data. I'll pause there.
Barry, thank you for that presentation. Right off the bat, first, actually, sorry, if you'd like to connect with Primer, please mark it in the poll, and we'll connect you afterwards. But Barry, right off the bat, what is the accuracy of the? Some people might say, you've got a demo, it's ready, the machine, knows what you're looking for. But there are so many different types of use cases, nuances. What's the general accuracy of the platform?
So that demo did go live off the bat. I know I typed in Apple just because I can only type so quickly on live demos. The accuracy is in the high 80s to low 90%, depending on what we're searching for and data sets and things of that nature. Again, we can go after any unstructured. That was just an example after news data. But typically we surpass or at least meet kind of human potential. And then from like an NER perspective, we've gone head to head with the Googles and Amazons and Microsofts of the world. And beaten them from an F1 score from a precision and recall metric as well. So done a lot of testing there.
And then, so how do you improve accuracy of performance? Do you have a reviewing mechanism built in?
We have a completely separate platform where we can review and train the systems. And then, as you know, in the precision recall world and machine learning, as we like to say at Primary, there's no magic, unfortunately. But what we're able to do is, depending on the use case and depending on the industry, people want to compensate for either precision or compensate for recall. And what that means is, are you okay getting false positives, or can you absolutely not miss anything? In the national security defense space, they'd rather have a couple false positives but not miss anything. Maybe as a trader, you don't want to be overwhelmed by information. You just want to make sure that the stuff you're getting is accurate. So you over optimize for kind of precision in that kind of use case. So we can pivot depending on use cases and kind of personas.
And what's your business model?
So we're a software as a service licensing SaaS model. So we can deploy on-premise and license it that way, or have our hosted cloud and license it that way.
Got it. We do have other questions, but we're out of time. So if you'd like to connect with Barry, if you haven't answered the poll, feel free to kind of email me, and I'll be happy to connect you with him, so you can get your questions answered directly from Barry. But thanks a lot for presenting. Looking forward to working with you in the next 3 months, I guess, or 2 months, whatever time we have left.
Thank you.